Good morning. Tap the screen, share the live. Good morning. Good morning. You know what we do? We don't believe in growing alone here, so share the live. Contact your business bestie. Let them know. If you're driving, just turn up the volume. But that's why we have business besties. Grab your contractor's notebook, your favorite beverage, and a pen. We have some things we want to talk about. Now we know today is Q&A Friday. I don't have my jacket, but that's okay. Today is Q&A Friday, but we're going to discuss some things before we get into Q&A Friday. Is that all right with you? That's all right. So for TikTok, tap the screen, share the live. Everybody else, tag your business bestie, bring them in the room because we don't believe in growing alone over here. We grow as a team. Business is not meant to be done alone. So welcome to this morning's edition of Contracting Chatter. Good morning, everybody. A little eclectic music going on. Welcome to Friday morning's edition of Contracting Chatter. I'm your host, Luciana Turner. Let's get this party started. Contracting Chatter is a platform where we discuss business and government contracting. It's not a political platform, however, we do discuss things that affect business. Last night was the presidential debates. Whether you vote or not, it's not my business. However, whoever wins the presidential election will influence the next 4 years of contracts and will influence the next full 4 years of regulations, which will affect your business. So if you follow the election for no other reason, you should follow it to understand who will have influence over your business. If for no other reason, you should follow it to have an understanding of who will have influence over your business. I don't care if you vote. That's not my business. That's not my monkey. That's not my show. But you should have an understanding of who has influence over your business. A lot of people, especially those who are believers, believe that politics, they stay out of politics for a variety of reasons. Excuse me for a second. And those reasons are valid to them. I'm not here to tell you to get involved. I'm not here to tell you not to get involved. That is not my business. If you're somebody who needs someone to tell you to get involved with anything, good morning, Blue Angel, then I question your ability to run your business. I'm simply telling you, you should be aware of what's going on so you understand who will have influence over your business over the next 4 years. That's it. That's all. Stop sending me invites on TikTok to go do a live. That's not what this live is about. Especially if you haven't commented in my comment section. Uh, last night is the first of many presidential debates. You should keep an eye on all of them. Your strategy should include, I don't want to say contingency. That's why I always talk about pivot, being ready to pivot, always constantly reviewing your strategy, being aware of the fact nothing is, I don't want to say set in stone, but you should always be aware that in business, there are things beyond your control. Good morning. There are things beyond your control. So you should be able and be willing to look at your strategy, to look at your plan and say, this is what's going on. This is affecting what I plan, and I need to be able to adjust and move. So whether or not you're a political minded person, whether or not you vote is irrelevant. You should be aware of anything that has influence over your business. And whether you like it or not, who sits in the seat of Pennsylvania Avenue influences the regulations that has influence over your business. And as a believer, even the Bible speaks that you render unto Caesar that which is Caesar. And with that, this is Q&A Friday. I'm hoping that y'all brought your questions. If not, I have content for days. Because yesterday I didn't go live, but I was doing some contracting planning and looking at my structure. And there are some structural changes that I'm making. I was looking at the IRS website, and I read some interesting things on concerning business structure planning, and when you need to file for a new EIN. So where can we find past awards for micro purchases? That's on spend.gov. I don't, you know what, in my ferreting around on Sam's, you can't find that on Sam's. If you go on Sam's, I think it's at the bottom of the page. You can click on spend, and on spend is their previous awards. Now, I'm going to say this. Spend.gov, they will tell you the past history for micro awards. If you want to be able to pull the past awards, pull the past RFPs, you're going to have to know the number. If you don't know the RFP number and you want to, and you still, if you don't know the RFP number, you would have to know the agency, and you still can't do that. You're going to have to pay for a subscription to like a GovWin, a Bloomberg, or something like that. They have access to all of that history. They have access to all of the old RFPs. Other than that, you're going to have spin.gov is your best free resource. But if you want to be able to pull up all of those old RFPs, last time I checked, and I'm going to check today after I get off, I'm going to tell you something. You will never avoid paying in government contracting. You will never avoid paying in business. Period, point blank. GovWin is a cost point project. I've used GovWin and I've used Bloomberg. I like both products. Bloomberg is more economically friendly, but it's still pricey. Good morning, Buns. It's still pricey. If you want the history, and I mean real history. Now, here's the part. This is the good thing about GovWin and Bloomberg, those products. They tell you who the contracting officer is. And somebody's going to say, well, that's public information. Not really. They tell you who the projecting officer is. That isn't. They give you that person's email address. They give you that person's phone number. They tell you what the contract value is, what the contract spend it is. They tell you what the overrun is. They tell you who is the prime. They give you all that good history. That is the value of the subscription. Now, in my contractors battle program, which some people will call a mastermind, I hate that term because it's not just a mastermind. It is where we do the work. I can't figure out how to get TikTok to stop doing that. And I'm going to go here. You may not want to do micro purchases. And you may want to do, and you do want to do a combination of micro and you want to do a combination. But you never want to build a business totally on micro purchases because they tend to be short and they're micro purchases for a reason. If you're going to do total P card contracts, I would tell anybody you need to have a credit card system through your bank. I'm going to say this again. You need a system through your bank. If you bank with Bank of America and you set up your business bank account, you need your payment processor through them. You do not need to have a Stripe, none of that other stuff, because they will suspend your stuff for compliance audits. And sometimes you just send one or two documents and it's over. Sometimes you send stuff and they will hold up and suspend your stuff for months. If you go through a bank, they don't do that mess. They don't suspend your ability to process while they're doing compliance audits. I never understood why Stripe and them do that. It is unnecessary to withhold your ability to process payments while you're doing a compliance audit. That's just ridiculous. So, yes, as soon as you're able to flip it over, and for those people who say, I don't want to pay the fees, you're paying fees with Stripe. You're paying fees with all of it. So you're not getting around the fees. And to take it just a little bit higher, if you get the payment processor, yeah, Navy Federal does do government payment processing. Now I'm gonna tell you something about doing Navy Federal. Navy Federal has gotten hit to everybody trying to go through them because they're easy. So Navy Federal has gotten hard to get an account with. Everybody putting out Navy Federal as the easy bank to get loans with, to get accounts with. And this is how we bypass Navy Federal system. Has quite frankly made it harder to get anything with Navy Federal. So expect Navy Federal's process to obtain an account to be a little harder. Expect Navy Federal's vetting process to be, oh, you have one already? Good girl. Expect Navy Federal just to be a little bit tougher for anybody who's not in Navy Federal. At one point, they was telling people to commit fraud to get a Navy Federal account because Navy Federal was easy. Navy Federal has gotten hit to what everybody has been saying about them. And they said, oh, not on our watch, and they changed up the game on everybody. I mean, it just is what it is. However, if you're doing Navy Federal, if any bank, have a business account. Don't have a personal account you're running business through. Have a business account. Yeah, these fake gurus will get you hooked up and hemmed up in a heartbeat. And sustain a core, I'm actually including a course in establishing business credit. Not that I'm a business credit expert, but just sharing some of the things that I've gone through. You know, a lot of the contracts that especially if you're going DOD, requires a clearance. I'm going to share my process that I went through when I had my clearance. And if you're a business trying to obtain a clearance and you don't want an office, you better make sure you have somewhere in your home that is secure. Lock and key. Your family can't get to it. Nobody can get to it. Nobody has access to it. Otherwise, you're not getting secured. This whole thing about wanting to stay virtual is nice, but it's not practical depending upon the type of work that you're trying to do. Let's just keep it 100. If you're trying to do classified work, you need an office because more often than not, you will need a skiff. Unless you always want to trot your little happy self down to a federal building. And getting through federal, let me tell you about when I actually worked at Capitol Police. I was cute that day. And I had on these heels. And them heels set off the metal detector. They wanted me to take my heels off and go through the metal detector again. Can I tell you, I wasn't about to do it. I told that man he was going to have to take my shoes off because they clipped on the side. I was coming through the front entrance. When you go through the other entrance, you don't go through the metal detector. I used to come in with the guys and leave with the guys, so I didn't have to go through the metal detector. I wasn't about to take them shoes off. I told that guy flat out, I said, let me tell you something. I'm too big to be doing all that. You know what I have to do to get these shoes on? I have to throw my leg up to the side. I said, nobody needs to know that I'm that flexible. I'm not taking these shoes off. Well, one of the guys that I worked with came through and he was like, she's with me. So that's how I got around that. I wasn't about to take them shoes off. So if my shoes set off the metal detector, do you really want to go through metal detectors every day? And that was back in the early 2000s. It is harder to get on Capitol Hill today. I'm sorry. I wasn't going to take them shoes off. However, I never went out the front again. I kept going in and out the door I was supposed to go in and out of. Uh-uh. Was not. I was cute that day. I had some heels with the side buckle, but I had to throw my shoot. No. I was going stand outside. I was gonna find somebody bring me my computer. No, it was not. I stood at the guard desk that day. Um any additional questions today for Q&A Friday? So once again, we're talking about making sure your back end is together. Uh, you want to do DoD work? Does that include classified work? And do you even know what it takes to get a clearance? What type of clearance do you need? And I'm gonna go here. Do you know there's more than one type of security clearance? Department of Energy has its own security clearance. So you can have the regular clearance, public trust, secret, Q, and all that stuff. But Department of Energy has a Q clearance that you have to go through the Department of Energy to get. They special. Can you pass a TSA background check? You do logistics, and you want to be able to handle packages. Are you hiring people who can pass the background check to do that? That goes into your planning. And if you're hiring people who can't, do you have other work that they can do that does not involve government contracts? Now, yesterday I was doing contract planning for my company because I am a government contractor in addition to contracting, consulting, and coaching. The state of Virginia has a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff along the line of training. Um, there's a lot of things along the lines of planning. There's a lot of things now. The government is utilizing AI. You know, everybody's like, yeah, AI, but they're not using AI to write things. They're using AI to strategize. But guess what? They're not using free AI. So if all you know how to do is manipulate the free AI, honey, I suggest you invest the money, upgrade to the paid version, and start trying to take some classes, start trying to manipulate it on your own or something. Because the paid version is different from the free version with its capabilities and its functionality. There are a lot of things that we need to be aware of. There are a lot of things that we need to um, now we're entering low hanging fruit season. And one of the things I'm trying to wrap your minds around is in business, freebie nation is okay, but it only gets you so far. And you bump your head against the wall. I mean, you slam it straight up hard against the wall because the free information only goes so far. I think I give out a lot of content for free. Can you imagine if you paid me? Could you imagine if you were in Charter Family? Could you imagine if you were in Sustainacore? Charter Family is $9.99 a month. Sustainacore is $97 a month. The contractor battle program, there's different tiers to that, but that comes with the strategic plan. I actually use GovWin to help you plan out your contracts. You pay. I heard this term when I first started my business. And the more I'm in my business, the longer I get, the older I get in business, the more I understand the terminology. You invest at the level you expect a return. And, free investments, you get a return. When you start investing money, you get a monetary return. It makes sense because I'm telling you, when I started investing money, I got a monetary return. I tell you, I went to a conference back in 2016, I think it was. I was able to monetize that investment 2 years ago because I was able to use that person's name for a grant. You know why that's important? Because that person now runs a Fortune 500 company. But I never would have been able to use that person's name if I had not have went to that conference. That was a $1,400 ticket. If I had not invested the $1,400, I never would have met that person. That's why I don't take it. Don't take it lightly when I say your next business partner is in the room, because it's true. When you attend conferences, when you attend events, when you join masterminds, your next business partner, your next strategic partner, the next introduction that you need is in the room, but you don't know. Even my marketing coach said she spent $60,000 for a mastermind and showed up to one call, implemented that one call, and she made, I can't remember how much money she made from that because I can't remember. I wasn't listening for the dollar amount. But she said had she showed up the whole year, how much money she could have made. She spent $60K and only went to one call. How much money could she have made if she hadn't showed up the whole time? Was the point she was making, because she was telling us to go all in. And that's a true and accurate statement. We need to go all in. Are there any more contracting questions this morning? Attending networking events. And I also want to advise you with this. Attend your local contracting events. The federal events, your local events, attend them all. A lot of times, in a lot of ways, you shortcut your way. You go from the bottom of the list to the middle of the list, from the middle of the list to the top of the list, because they remember you being at the events. Keisha, I'm having a contracting and business week event starting July 8th through the 12th. I host it every year. July is the start of low-hanging fruit season for every government agency, because every government, there's some exceptions, typically run on a fiscal, every government runs on a fiscal year. Contracting and Business Week starts July 8th through the 12th. You can get started then. We're talking about creating a contracting plan on day 1. Day 2, we're talking about strategic partnerships. Day 3, we're talking about compliance. I'm your compliance girl. I'm going to tell you how to keep the money that you made, because government math is worse than Common Core. See, that's another question. When I talk about working with the government, I'm talking about working with the government. It doesn't matter the contract. It doesn't matter the services. If you're talking to somebody that tells you I can only help you if you do certain services, they're not a contractor. There is no such thing if they're a contracting specialist as I can only work with certain people depending on if you're a government contractor, because the government buys everything. And they use the same process no matter what they buy. The only difference is the contract vehicle. There's some tweaks depending upon the vehicle, but it's the same process. And somebody's going to come at me for that, but guess that's all right. Because there are some tweaks depending upon the vehicle, but it's the same process. And you can do all types. Don't show up to Contracting and Business Week. Stay in my community. You'll learn it. Because if it's fixed price, if you have your bid rates and you learn the ropes, you're going to do it. Stay in my community. You're going to learn. I'm actually looking, I have a private Facebook group. I'm actually looking at moving the group off of Facebook, but that's for a different reason. I do have a Discord. It's already set up. I just haven't activated it. I may just move everybody to the Discord. But check the comment section. There's somebody who's in my group. I drop things in the group, like the tripwires of government contracting. I'm actually dropping my infographic on Contractors Toolkit. Now, I'm going to turn that into an ebook eventually. But by Contractors Toolkit, I'm dropping that in the group as something that everybody who joins my email group, email list gets anyway. But if you join the group, you get that. But Contracting and Business Week, day 4, we talk about low-hanging fruit season for the inexperienced contractor. And day 5, we talk about low-hanging fruit season for the experienced contractor. And I'm going to have this caveat. If you're somebody who is the accidental contractor, and what do I mean by that? You want a government contract and you don't know how you did it. You may have 5 of them and you don't know how you want it. You need to be in the low-hanging fruit. You need to be paying attention because there are so many people. I have government contracts. Well, how did you do it? Can you repeat it? No. Do you have the systems? Do you have do you have all these things in place? No. Do you have a disclosure statement? What's that? You're a novice. Because there are people who accidentally win government contracts. But when the audit come, honey, they can't pass it. You can win the contract and lose the award. Because I've talked to people who have won contract and couldn't pass the desk audit and was disappointed. And couldn't figure out how they won the contract and lost the award. It happens all the time. And with that, today is the last day of Q&A Friday. For those of you who found Q&A Friday valuable, you need to join the Chatter family. That is my subscription service. I am going to pin everywhere how you can join Chatter family. That's a $9.99 a month subscription, or you can pay for it for the year. You do you. And the Q&A Fridays is just what Chatter Family is about. You come in there and we discuss subscribers only, and we discuss your question, whether it's a one-time session or we discuss it over multiple sessions. You don't get a government contracting expert for $9.99. You just don't. You receive a newsletter just keeping you up and aware of what is going on in the government contracting world. You know, there's changes to FAR. There are tweaks to the cost accounting statements. FAR is the Federal Acquisition Regulation. CAS is the cost accounting standards. Keep this in mind. Not all contracts are CAS covered. Not all contracts are FAR covered. Some contracts, they will bring in a FAR clause by reference, and some contracts are FAR covered because of the agency. You need to know that. You want to keep all those things in mind. Now, I need to get my son together because he has a doctor's appointment. So I'm going to end this live with this. As you're going into the weekend, you need to decide what kind of company you have. I have a podcast episode called The Three Types of Contractors: the novice, the revenue generator, and the contracting business. That is where you need to start. What kind of contractor you need to be? What kind of contractor do you want to be? And how you start and how you finish is not necessarily the same thing. You just need to figure out where you want to start. My podcast is LT&A Contractors Conversation. Now, I recorded some podcast episodes yesterday, and the primary one that's getting ready to drop is called Proposal Compliance. And let me tell you, that one is fire. What's up there now? We're talking about proposal development. That was the last podcast episode that came out. I have one on the role of compliance that's coming out. I have the one audit readiness is out. I'm putting out the one on contracting readiness. That's going on my podcast. I recorded it on the live here, but it's going on the podcast. We have so many things that's going to the podcast that's actually going to become either a masterclass or a training vehicle. This October, I am launching a challenge. And there are a handful, a select few, that will help me develop the challenge. So they get a sneak peek behind the scenes of what the challenge is going to look like. So they're going to be able to testify to the contents of the challenge. Now, if you say, I don't want to wait till October, I want to be ready to rock and roll come October 1st, in September, 2 days in September, here in the Queen City of Charlotte, I'm doing a contractors intensive. Join my mailing list, and you'll stay abreast of everything that's coming up. For those 2 days, I'm going to help you get your business in order. If you don't know how to get through SAMS, I'm going to help you get through SAMS, but you got to come additional third day, because I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to smash that into those 2 days for the intensive. With that, have an amazing weekend. Get some rest. And if you're like me and going to be doing some work, squeeze in rest time. Because a stressed mind will never create. Have an amazing weekend. And I will see you Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another edition of Contracting Chatter. I'm your host, Luciana Turner. Have an amazing weekend. If you wish to book an appointment with me, https://ltacg.as.me, and I will see you Monday. Have a good one. And you're welcome.